Lizzy, it dipped, 17%. This is horrific. Break it down for us.
Yeah, it's the 10th month in a row that it's still in double digits, but yeah, it's kind of good news that it's dropping a bit. If you break it down, you can see that what's really rising are milk, eggs, cheese, the stuff that everybody has to buy. So that's painful for the poorest consumers, and you can see that what they're doing is going to own brand lines. Those sales went up 46% year on year. But you have to ask, where do they go from there when everything's inflating? And then if you look at what it means for the Bank of England, the Deputy Governor Dave Ramsden gave an interview to The Times on Friday. He said that he's especially concerned about food price inflation. He actually thinks that the risks of inflation outweigh the risks of over-tightening even at this point. And you've got traders almost fully pricing a 5% peak for rates right now. But when I speak to economists, they say one of the reasons that they keep on underestimating inflation is because of the gap between CPI and PPI, and it's changed from previous crises, and they suggest that that's because companies are price gouging on food, hence why perhaps you can see why policymakers continue to resort to this blunt tool of rate rises to control inflation.
What about public finances?
So we got the latest data from the Office for National Statistics at 7 a.m. They showed that the UK's Treasury ended the most recent fiscal year with a deficit £13.2 billion below the official forecast. That's despite the huge energy subsidies, it's despite the big spike in interest costs that you've seen. And interestingly, there was a note from KPMG saying that even though everywhere is having these problems, they estimate that a quarter of the rise in gilt yields over the past year is specifically because of UK-specific problems. But the reason for this deficit is because you've had buoyant tax revenues in the UK. We know that the tax burden here is the highest in the Second World War, the period since then, at a time when the economy isn't growing. So you're going to have a long line of Conservatives at the Chancellor's door asking him to spend this headroom on giveaways before the next election, especially when you had S&P on Friday upgrading its outlook for the UK. They'll say, look, things look rosy, we're well past the Liz Truss era here.